Hello and welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi dated 17th December 2025. Here we have taken up important news and article from The Hindu and Indian Express newspaper and have segregated our discussion into two parts, that is analysis and simplified. The first topic of analysis section is related to higher education in India. Now why we have taken up this article? Because Union government has presented a bill related to formation of Higher Education Commission of India, which was later referred to the Joint Parliamentary Committee for further deliberations. The second news article is related to nuclear energy. Again, a new bill has been introduced in the parliament named as Shanti Bill related to the nuclear energy, and it is aimed at bringing the private investment and private players in the field of nuclear energy of India. Both these discussions will be followed by the practice question, so stay tuned. In simplified section, there are 5 articles which will cover important information related to your answer writing practice as well as preliminary examination. So let us begin our discussion. So the first topic of today's discussion is based on the higher education in India. Now why we have taken up this topic? Because Union government has introduced a bill related to formation of Higher Education Commission of India, that is HECI. This formation is in line with the recommendations of the National Education Policy 2020. The main aim is to detach the regulation from funding. At present, UGC is the umbrella body which is looking after both regulation as well as funding. Alternatively, this bill aims to revamp other issues related to the higher education in India, namely the autonomy, flexibility, administrative efficiency and regulatory burden. So the name of the bill is Viksit Bharat Shiksha Adhishthan Bill 2025. Why it is important? As per your GS paper 2 syllabus, government policies and intervention for development of in various sectors has been mentioned, as well as issues relating to development and management of social sector services relating to education and health is also mentioned. So what we are going to cover in this article? We will cover the landscape of higher education in India, the challenges associated within, how this HECI will aim to improve upon those issues, and some way forward as suggested by Niti Aayog. So the first thing, the landscape. As you know, we often talk about the demographic dividend. What is it? It is about the higher proportion of youth in Indian population or the working population in the milieu of the Indian population. So according to World Population Prospect 2022, it is the median age of India is 28.2 years, which is going to reduce by 2036. And this share going to reduce, not the age. The share is going to reduce from 27.2% as of now to 22.7% by 2036. This is the estimation. But still, if you will talk in absolute number, it is placed at around 34.5 crore, which is huge number. So in order to reap this demographic dividend, the primary thing which is important is imparting the skill and education to the youth so that they can get meaningful employment and livelihood measures. So you can see here, Government of India is doing things in a right direction. As you can see, the rising number of university from 760 in 2014 to around 1338 in 2025. Same is the case with if you will only look at the higher educational institute, around 70,000 institute have increased. Then the colleges around again from 38,000 to 52,000. And if you will talk about a specialized institution, if we will talk about IITs, it has grown from 16 to 23. So in numbers, we are improving. The numbers of colleges, higher educational institution, the Institute of Eminence, all things are improving, as has been highlighted by the ISHES survey. But what is the problem? Problem lies with the functioning. The qualitative aspect is the problematic thing. And what are those issues with the higher education? First thing, the politicization and erosion of academic autonomy. Now, how political influence is impacting higher education? If you will talk about the development, or you can say location of a new institution, it is motivated and directed through political consideration. So if a political party or a political leader wants to in his or her tenure, if they want to create a new university or college, preferably it will come up in their area, electoral area. So again, the study behind the feasibility, utility of those institutions, accessibility of those institutions takes a backseat, and rather what is given preference? The populist demand. Second, the appointments. So appointment, you might have heard about the appointment of VCs, professors, HODs, and many a times there is a tussle between central government and state government. If not center versus state, even the tussle is tussle comes from within. So various student unions and the teacher union, they protest against certain appointment. So this kind of tussle is a regular affair these days, and certainly it is pointing towards the politicization of the education. Second is the asymmetric nature of the public funding. Now here NEP recommended a 6% of GDP, minimum 6% of GDP to be spent on education. If we will talk about China, it is more than 7%, USA 7%, Japan almost 8%. So NEP set a target that 6% of GDP should be spent. But what we are spending? 3 to 4% roughly. It might go up to 4.5, but the average is 3 to 4%. Total educational expenditure. Out of this, hardly 1% go to the higher education. Now this is one problem, the allocation itself. Then comes the second issue. Now if you can just relate with your surrounding, more number of students are enrolled in the state universities. So 60 to 70% of the students are being served by the state universities or colleges at the state level. But they are only getting 35% of the UGC grant, while 65% of the UGC grant is going to the central universities, who are catering just 30% of the student. So this is the asymmetry, imbalance. Who is serving more is getting less, who is serving less is getting more. And that is why you can visibly see the difference in the level of infrastructure and facilities in the central universities vis-a-vis the state universities or the state level colleges. Then comes non-existence of dedicated infrastructure financing for a state university. Now you might have heard about Higher Education Financing Agency, which was constituted, HEFA, which was constituted for the institutions of eminence. Institutions of eminence. But there is no such dedicated financing agencies for state universities and college who are serving more people. So basically they are relying totally on the grants and the revenues that they are generating. There is no specialized agency. Even if you will go to the medical science, so UGC is there for giving grants to the colleges. But for medical field, there is no such body that is providing grants to the colleges. Next is, as I have told you, the reliance on traditional revenue resources, because most of the grant are going towards the central universities and dedicated infrastructure financing is not available. So they are relying on the traditional ways. So they will charge admission fee, test fee, or the tuition fee, or if any college, any university is giving affiliation to any college, so they are relying on the affiliation fees. But whatever their revenue is, they are being charged tax. The utilities that are being provided to them, that is water, electricity, they are being charged on market rate. So again, most of these universities are left with no surplus revenue. In most of the cases, a study by Niti Aayog found that most of them are falling short of giving salaries also. So leave alone investing in infrastructure and opening up new courses with good equipment, laboratories, and providing students with good hostel facilities and all. They are struggling to manage their basic expenses. Then comes the faculty shortage. Now, first thing, the recruitment process is arbitrary. It varies from state to state and university to university, and also it is not a uniform process. It is very lengthy process, non-transparent. Favoritism is there in appointment. Most of the time ad hocism is there, so you will get a contractual job, not a permanent job. And resulting in, all these things are resulting in, UGC itself submitted a report in front of parliamentary committee where it highlighted that 35% of professor, 46% of associate professors and 26% of assistant professors vacancies are lying vacant. Then comes, even if there is a vacancy and there is a recruitment, what about the accountability and performance evaluation? So most of the time the promotion is based on seniority, not on the teaching outcome or the performance of teaching. It is based on the seniority of the teacher. That's it. Secondly, when you are recruiting a teacher, you are focusing on the teaching prowess or the teaching technique or the teaching ability of a teacher. So while recruiting, you are focusing on teaching, but while evaluation, you are focusing on how many research paper that particular faculty has published. Now this kind of situation creates a dissonance. So you have been recruited on a different ground but being assessed on a different ground. Okay, research is not a problem, but please read point number 8 first. The infrastructure for research or the ecosystem for research is itself very poor. So there are no infrastructure, laboratory, there are no foreign collaboration, and even if the collaboration is there in case of the central universities or some big institutions, most of the institutions at a state level are lagging behind. They have practically no foreign collaboration, meaningful foreign collaboration. Even if the collaboration is there, it is on paper. Then grants, salaries, stipend are not being provided. Then teachers are, even if you will look at the data of PhD or MTech, you will find there is very poor enrollment. Not because of choice, because of the ecosystem itself. It is so depressing, it is so discouraging that people refrain from enrollment into some research process, PhD and MTech courses, because they know it will take a huge time and there is no certainty. Then comes the last thing, that is the access to quality journals. UGC itself revises the list of the journals, but whatever the list is there, the journals are not being provided to the faculties for their reference and research work. Now comes the 7th point, outdated curriculum and low employability. Now various investigations and reports have highlighted that only 45 to 50% of the youth are employable. Rest are lacking skill, the basic skill to get an employability, or their study or their courses are completely detached from what is the need of the industry. So there is a complete detachment of industrial demand with that of the what institutions are teaching. So curriculum is obsolete and not aligned with the market demand. That affects the enrollment ratio altogether. If you will look at the technical education, medical education, or the some central universities like Delhi University, Mumbai University, Chennai University or Kolkata University, things are fine. But just imagine having social science as a subject in some state universities, because funding is not there, infrastructure is not there, and generally the data shows that those from economically weaker section of the society are enrolling in these courses with very low paying capacity. So the input is also not there. So the requisite set of standards in humanities and social sciences are not there when you will look at the state universities. Moving further, there is excessive regulation and lack of autonomy for anything, for any individual, from individual to organization. We always talk about autonomy so that a person can evolve the way they want. They can take chances, they can start new things. Same is true with the institution. Now here in India, UGC is the overarching body. Now just imagine you want to open a college in your home state. Now what do you need? There is a regulation from UGC. Then there is a central act or state act. Then there would be an affiliating university at a state level. Then after getting affiliation, let's say you want to open engineering courses. Then you need to go to AICTE. Now where is the autonomy? 3 level of scrutiny regulation is there. UGC, Central Act, State Act, affiliating university, then the technical body. Even recruitment, raising the fee, everything requires government permission. Kind of disincentivizes the investment and enterprise in the entrepreneurs to invest in the field of higher education. Lastly, this is a globalized world. Everywhere from defense to science and technology to the field of agriculture or textile, we talk about collaborations with foreign institutions or foreign countries. Now, in education, which forms the basic premise of the youth skill impartment or the youth education, it also requires collaboration with international universities. Now this internationalization is completely lacking, and mainly when you will look at the non-central universities and non-eminent institutions. So mostly the curriculum is has got freezed in time, and there is no exposure to what is going on around. There is no exposure to what is the demand of industry. Just reading things which are 20 years old, formulated 20 years old, and once the youth comes to the market, the data comes true, that is 50% are unemployable. Okay. Now, how this Higher Education Commission is aiming to bring the change. Now, if you will look at the education policy of 2020, in the governance part, it specifically says Higher Education Commission of India with 4 wings. What were the 4 wings? Regulatory Council, Accreditation Council, General Education Council, and Higher Education Grants Council. So, basically, to detach the regulatory function from the grants function and accreditation function and a separate curriculum, the General Education Council to assess the learning outcomes. So 4 verticals in a single HECI, which will be oversighted or looked upon by team of experts. So under an overarching body, there are 4 different departments. Just understand this in this manner, that there is a mother body and under that there are 4 other bodies. At present, there are 3 different bodies: UGC for grants and regulation of higher education, then AICTE for technical and professional education, and the National Council for Teacher Education for teacher education and training program. So, to remove all this and to club all this to bring it under HECI was the aim and suggestion of NEP 2020. Now, how it is going to help? First thing, the separation of functions. So, conflict of interest is gone. So, one who is giving you grant is not the regulatory body, because if both the functions are clubbed in a single body, there is conflict of interest and there is confusion also that what kind of role should be given primacy. Now, these roles are separated. Everyone has a different defined role. So, you don't need to get into the conflict. Otherwise, what used to happen that if you, again, take an example of a technical educational course. So, there is a team of UGC, there is a team of AICTE, and then there is a team of accreditation for the institution or your course. And everyone had overlapping jurisdiction. So from the perspective of an institution, it was very confusing to deal with these three different bodies for a single thing. Now, clear-cut role, under just you will apply, and HECI will decide which team will look after which thing. You don't need to serve to different three bodies, to reach out to three different bodies. Then it will be focusing on outcome. More focus on outcome, that how they are performing. Based on performance, they will be linking the incentivization, that is grants. Then there would be an uniform academic standard. So it would not be like different AICTs fixing curriculum and other academic standards for technical education, while UGC for non-technical education, and confusion is there. So now a single body that is Academic Learning Outcome and Standard, General Education Council will be framing the standard for all kind of education. Then autonomy. The aim is to provide autonomy, to give freedom, to give flexibility to institution. Now just pay focus on one thing. These are the aim and objective, the prospect, that aim of HECI, but there are criticism. The first and foremost criticism is centralization of power, as education is a concurrent subject, concurrent list subject. Now everything is being handed over to HECI. So HECI will decide upon the fate of any college or university. So opposition is alleging that it is an attempt to centralize the regulatory standards and grants, because you will give the power of granting power of grants, and you are linking it with performance. So opposition is saying that again it would be on the mercy. And one more thing, one very important thing which I missed out. This grant, the fourth thing, Higher Education Grants Council, according to the bill and its proposal, this grant, the power of grant will remain with Human Resource Ministry, Ministry of HRD. They are not going to form any grants council, but they will keep it with the Human Resource Ministry. Now this is what the opposition is raising question about, that you are centralizing everything on a concurrent subject. You are making laws a central law. Second, the grant will be held by the ministry, central ministry. So it would be the purview of ministry whether to give grant or not. And opposition is alleging that there are scope of discrimination between the ruling party state and state which are not ruled by a ruling party of the center. Then other reasons, just simply understand this. There were three institutions. Now you have merged three with different roles. Okay. But experts are saying this is mere a paper tiger, because it is nominal. How you are going to give autonomy? Still, these three institutions which were separate are not now being clubbed. So again, the regulatory framework remains same. The bureaucratization remains the same. So delays, confusion, conflict, everything will remain same, because again, you have created 4 verticals under one department. Earlier it was 4 different departments. So experts believe that the operational efficiency of HECI is to be assessed after 2 or 3 years of its implementation, because they are looking at it with the skepticism that it is not going to change anything substantial. Lastly, they are saying UGC and its role, you are removing it overnight and bringing in HECI, which is still under consideration. So point is, the issue is, which is raised by the experts is, what about the transition period? It will create confusion and disruptions in the smooth affairs of the higher education in India. So these are the concerns and these are the prospect. What else can be done? And as you know that improving the situation by addressing the issues is the best way forward. So for quality, you need to improve the research ecosystem. You need to update the curriculum. You need to digitalize the education system and you need to make a reach of this digital initiative. Then internationalization is very important. Very important issue is funding. So government funding should achieve the target of 6% of the funding. Then we need to diversify the revenue resource. So PPP model can be worked upon. Alumni network can be accessed. Then CSR grants can be accessed and tax exemptions can be given. That is, the taxation that you are putting on the revenue, you can brought in tax exemption for the universities. Then for utility payment like water, electricity, you can give concessional rates so that their economic feasibility, viability improves. Next is give autonomy in deciding fee. It should not be a regulatory measures that to raise fee, they need to reach out to the central government, state government, this university, that university, but give them autonomy to raise the fee to certain level. Then comes the governance. You need to provide autonomy in matters of launch of new courses, their approval. It should be expedited and they should be free to decide upon which source they which course they want to invest into. Then recruitment and capacity building of faculties, which are because they are the founding pillars of any institution, should be done. Then aligning the course with the demand of the market with the academia industry collaboration should be done at the earliest. Now this is your practice question, that is, discuss the major structural and governance related challenges facing higher education in India. Suggest comprehensive way forward to make the system more inclusive, autonomous and globally competitive. A 250 word question, 15 marker, try to attempt it. Now another important bill which was introduced in the parliament was Shanti Bill. Full form: Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Bill 2025. Now what is the core aim of this bill? Now, as you know, India wants to achieve target of 100 gigawatt of nuclear energy by 2030. This is the aim of Government of India. Now, in order to achieve this, government realized that hitherto, which the area which was hitherto controlled by the government, a kind of complete monopoly by the government in nuclear energy, no private participation was there. So this bill aims to open the gate for the private players and private investment so that these targets to achieve 100 gigawatt of nuclear power capacity by 2030 and all in all 500 gigawatt of power share of renewable energy by 2047. To achieve these two targets, this is a remarkable step. Now, why it is important? GS paper 3, energy security is important from the perspective of examination. So, we will look at the energy landscape of India. What is the mix of energy in India at present? Why government is focusing? The first reason is government want to reduce its dependency on the fossil fuels. And as you know, still the major chunk, around 49% of the power, around 49% of the power production in India, energy production in India comes from the thermal power itself. So, government trying to reduce it, but it hovers around 50 to 51%. Now, if you will see the renewable energy, government is improving leaps and bounds and achievements are great. if you will see, from 76 gigawatt to 227 gigawatt in 2025. Correctly moving in a right direction, though some doubt this, but it is huge leap towards achieving the target of 500 gigawatt by 2047. Now, if you will look at the nuclear energy, if non-fossil fuel based, it is only 3%, much behind the solar power and hydropower and wind power. Plus, though there is a growth from 4,780 megawatt to 8,780 megawatt of the installed power, still we are behind if we will compare it with the solar power, hydropower and wind power. So, government is focusing, and in this budget, government put out a layout of around 20,000 crore to achieve the target of nuclear energy mission for Viksit Bharat, to achieve the target of this 100 gigawatt of power by the year 2030. So, what government is focusing majorly upon? Government is focusing majorly upon small modular reactors. What are they? As the name suggests, they are not conventional reactors. They do the similar job, but they are factory manufactured. Factory manufactured, first thing. So you will manufacture them in factory and you can install them. They are small, capacity wise and size wise. Capacity 30 to 300 megawatt. Plus, you can install them and deploy them in remote locations also. So, government is putting more emphasis on small modular reactor to achieve its targets of 100 gigawatt of nuclear energy by 2047. Sorry, I said 2030, it is 2047, not 2030. So 100 gigawatt of power out of 500 gigawatt of total power by 2047, they are aiming to achieve. Now, if you will see, at present there are 25 nuclear reactors with an installed capacity of 8,880 megawatt, but roughly forming 3.8% or 3% of the total electricity generation. So India wants to improve these numbers, and in this direction, they have brought in the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India, that is Shanti Bill. And the major focus is inclusion, and the major highlight is opening up the nuclear energy sector for the private players. So you can see that government control is retained with private participation, 49% minority equity will be there. Foreign participation will be allowed. A major part is, if you will see in the budget itself, government talks about Atomic Energy Act and Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act. So, for further discussion, for further reference, we will simply refer it to Civil Liability Act, because this is very contentious issue. And that is why the major focus, apart from the private player, is amending and repealing these two laws, because of the sections and provisions which were confusing and which were kind of contentious for the foreign vendors and foreign players. So the main focus is on risk sharing. I'll explain this later. And earlier there were strict rules regarding this civil liability under that particular act. So a supplier would be liable for any damage, any accident in the nuclear power plant. I'll explain it. But now, and every private vendor from abroad were apprehensive of these clauses, because these were not aligned with the global norms. So again, dilution has been done, and risk sharing and liability management mechanism with clear-cut definitions have been proposed. Emphasis on a small modular reactor rather than large pressurized hard water reactors. So now small modular reactors. So basically creating a more investor friendly environment, and which is aligned with global practices. So this is the aim of this Shanti Bill. Now, why it is important, why we are preferring and why we are saying that we need to improve the share of nuclear energy in the mix of energy from renewable sources. So, why we need? First thing, most of the renewable sources like wind energy, solar energy, they are intermittent in nature. They are not permanent. So if cloudiness is there, solar energy capacity will go down. Winds are not there, particular location is not suitable, wind energy will not perform. Hydropower, you need a lot of construction, lot of um, you will face the protest and all those things regarding the environment conservation, and basically a very, you can say, technical aspect related to it, again dependent on rainfall and the water in the reservoir. Compared to that, it is more regular form of energy resource. So the first benefit that it provides, apart from being regular, lower or almost negligible carbon footprint and a source of clean power. When you will compare it with coal and other non-renewable sources, you will find it that the GHG emission life cycle is almost negligible when you will consider nuclear power. Then comes security and diversity. Obviously, the import bills of India mostly goes to the crude oil and the renewable sources like petroleum and coal and all those things. So again, it will provide you first the diversity. You have another option to create, produce and distribute the energy. Second, it will give you a lower import bill check. You can cut upon the coal import and other things. Lastly, thirdly, it has high energy density. What does that mean? See, if you will see, look at the nuclear power plant, it requires a very small area per unit of power production. A very small area compared to coal powered thermal power plant, or if you will see hydroelectric power plant. So the dam itself is a structure that is visible, but there are tunnels, there is reservoir which should be huge, then there is maintenance. So compared to them, it is very small. And if you will compare solar power plant, it spreads through acres. So compared to all of this, this requires very small space. Secondly, the fuel requirement is very low. So just understand this with one example. If you want to produce 1000 megawatt of power at 90% of load factor efficiency, that is efficiency of 90%. So total installed capacity is 100, you are using 90% of the installed capacity, the load factor. So if you are producing 1000 megawatt at 90% of load factor, then you only require 25 tons of nuclear fuel, low enriched uranium. But the same power you require 5 million tons of coals. 5 million ton of coal. So that is why it is called as high density, regular source of high density and regular source of energy. So once your power plant starts production, if nothing goes wrong technically, it is not dependent on rainfall, sunlight, wind or anything like that. It will give you a regular supply, consistent supply. Lastly, it has a spillover effect, then kind of trickle down effect. So if you are creating nuclear power plants, it requires high level of technological prowessness plus high level of manufacturing capacity. So it will promote domestic manufacturing of heavy equipment component, high skill employment it will provide, and it can catalyze domestic supply chain. And once you are an established player, you can also access foreign market. But if this is the case, what are the challenges? First is the safety perception. Now incidences like Fukushima in Japan, or during the war between Russia and Ukraine, there was a persistent threat of attacks on nuclear installation. And historically, if you will consider Chernobyl or anything like that, the nuclear disasters have a profound impact on the population, and that creates a perception of fear towards the nuclear power. And that is when you will see that every nuclear project that comes in India, you will find a huge protest. Name it Jatpur, name it Kudankulam, everywhere you will find huge protest because of this perception that you are contaminating the environment. Your waste will contaminate the environment. If someday accident will happen, it will wipe out the population. So this is the first thing. Then the regulatory ambiguity. Now, generally, Atomic Energy Act is the overarching statute that deals with the atomic energy in India, nuclear power in India, under which AERB looks after the security protocol, which itself works under the Department of Atomic Energy. Now, again, a law, an agency which works under another agency. So there is always a consistent confusion that who is the deciding authority, who you will approach if you want any clearance, if you want any permission, who to approach. So these kind of confusions are persistent in every department. Just you have seen in the higher education sector, this is true for this sector also. Then comes the commercial risk. Now, stringent provisions of civil liability, which we were talking about. Now, what is this? Let's say an entity which is operating, there is a subsection 17 in this Civil Liability Act, which is very much contentious among the players, entities involved in the nuclear power production. What happens that there is a provision 17 subclause B, which talks about the penalties, or you can say the penal act or the damage due to nuclear accidents or the nuclear power project. So if an entity, let's say in case of India, Nuclear Power Corporation Limited, NPCL, is running a power plant. Now, some mishap happens or some accident happens. Now, NPCL will pay the damage, will pay the compensation. But according to the 17 subclause B, after paying the damage, it has a right for recourse. What is recourse? Right for recourse? It is a right to demand reimbursement from the person who is actually at fault. So you have paid the compensation, now you can exercise your right. Now you can, in simple terms, you can sue or you can ask the suppliers to pay for the damage. So NPCL, after paying the damage, will demand the cost from the suppliers. Now this is the most contentious, and many a times you might have heard about India has an agreement with US, India has an agreement with France, India has an agreement with Japan. But only Russian companies are investing in India. Why not others? Because of this particular clause. Because they are apprehensive about this clause. They say that this definition of supplier is not clear. So supplying small component is also supplier, supplying the reactor itself is a supplier, everyone is under the ambit of this. Plus, let's say I constructed and commissioned a power plant in 2020. Accident happened in 2055. Even then you can sue me and you can ask for damage. So there is no time limit, and it will create a lifelong threat of penalty if anything happens. So it was created to protect the rights and you can say the prospect of the community or those who are being affected by this damage. But foreign vendors are apprehensive. They say this is not in line with the foreign practice. So that is why there is low participation, and that is why these provisions are tweaked in the new bill. Then obviously high technological affair, then high finances, high gestation period, again hurdle for investment or the involvement of new players. Then concerns about the waste management, perception about the waste management, where you will put it, and how you will put it. Articulation is not clear, guidelines are not clear. People, experts say that it has loopholes and provides much of discretion to the reactor owner or the entity which is running the reactor. Then India has very good capacity, commendable capacity in pressurized heavy water reactors. But when it comes to the light water reactors, small modular reactors and other advanced reactor technologies, it is still dependent on the Western countries or foreign countries. So this is one of the challenge which India wants to improve with indigenous reactors, SMRs, by 2031 with an outlay of 20,000 crore. So what are the way forwards? Way forward are the challenges which were there in the previous law or the previous regulatory framework have been, government has tried to address them with this Shanti bill. So once it finalizes, once the deliberations are over, then it would be, these steps are themselves a way forward in long run, and if there is any protest or contention, then again those eliminating those barriers to allow foreign players, private players, by securing the rights and life of the locals and all the stakeholders would be a concrete way forward. Now here is a question in 2018 in UPSC mains for your practice. With growing energy needs, should India keep on expanding its nuclear energy program? Discuss the facts and fears associated with nuclear energy. So while highlighting the facts and fears, you need to take a stand whether it should pursue it or not. Certainly India should pursue, because many nations are doing this and it is in favor of the energy security of India. However, fears should be removed. So try to answer this question. This is a 15 marker 250 word question. Moving on to the simplified section, the first article is related to climate change. And a new study has highlighted that recent cyclones in the Sri Lanka or countries around Malacca Straits, the situation worsened or the impact worsened due to deforestation, climate change and urbanization. So they have highlighted unplanned urbanization, deforestation and climate change as three major causes for the worsened impact of the recent cyclones. Important from GS3 perspective, that is environmental pollution and degradation. So what has been highlighted? I have told you that Sri Lanka and Malaysia. Sri Lanka was hit by cyclone Ditwa, while Senyar hit the Indonesia and then Malaysia, the countries along the Malaccan Strait. Now, how it impacted? The intensity of rainfall, the quantity and duration of rainfall in Sri Lanka was recorded 28 to 160% more intense, while in countries of Malacca Strait, it was 9 to 50% high. Now, the first reason was climate change. How? It has highlighted that from 1800s, the global average temperature has rised by 1.3 degrees Celsius. Now the moment temperature increases, the air expands. If you will increase or heat the air, it will expand. And this expanded air provides an avenue for more moisture retention, provide space for more moisture retention. First thing. Second thing, with higher temperature, evaporation will be higher. So with higher evaporation, with higher moisture content, once the rainfall will start, it is going to be more intense than what it was earlier or what it was traditionally. So first reason, the climate change. And it has provided a very good data that for every 1 degree Celsius rise in average temperature, there is 7% more moisture in the atmosphere. Further, it also highlights the sea surface temperature, based on which UPSC has also asked a mains question in the year 2024. Sea surface temperature rise and its relation to the cyclone. So they have also highlighted the sea surface temperature in the Indian Ocean region had also gone up, and that is also you can say adding to the misery of the people. Then comes the forest cover, deforestation. They have given some data that in the span of 100 years from 1900 to 2002, 70% of the forest of Sri Lanka has been wiped off. So 90% of the area was covered with forest in 1900. Now only 20% area is under forest cover. Same is the story with Indonesia. In the span of 30 years, they have lost 25% of their forest. Now what happens? Forests have a root system. They help in absorbing the runoff water. They help in retaining the soil. They help in managing the stability of the landmass. Once it is gone, runoff will increase, and this will increase the impact of flooding. Next is the urbanization. Sri Lanka and Indonesia, both the countries, they have found that people are living in high intensity flood risk zone. So encroachment is there. Plus concrete, the infrastructure projects like road, railways, cropland, all these things, they have contributed towards more runoff water than what could have been absorbed by the soil itself, again contributing towards the more intensity of the disaster. All in all, if you will term it, apart from the human loss or the physical infrastructural loss, the losses in and around Malaccan Strait was 4.13 billion with due to cyclone Senyar. If you will look at Sri Lanka, the cyclone caused around $6 billion loss, economic loss in Sri Lanka. Now from your perspective, because this article repeatedly mentions Strait of Malacca. So Strait of Malacca is a narrow water body connecting two large water bodies, that is Arabian Sea and South China Sea, which is part of the Pacific Ocean, the Western Pacific Ocean. And it is located, the west side of it is Sumatra, Indonesia. On the right side is Malaysian Peninsula, and here is Singapore. Some part of the southernmost Thailand also forms the part of the Malaccan Strait. Now, why we call it Malaccan Strait? Because of the Malaccan Sultanate, which was here during 1400 till 1511, and the joint patrol of this important choke point is done by the Singapore, Malaysia and Indonesia together. Economic importance include India itself. 60% of seaborne trade goes through that. Almost all of its LNG imports come from through the Malaccan Strait. 60% of world's maritime transport passes through Malaccan Strait, and 25% of the oil from Middle East to Far East goes through Malaccan Strait. There is another important strait here, that is Sunda Strait, between the Indonesian island of Sumatra and Java. So Sunda, if you will go from south to north, Sunda and then Malaccan Strait. The next news article is based on this news, which talks about how the policies and the tone of USA has changed from 2005 to 2025. Now, USA has come up with the National Security Strategy document, and experts are finding remarkable change or shift from the tone of 2005. So important for bilateral relation or the policies of developed countries on the interest of India of your GS2 paper. What it highlights, while 2005 document highlighted that the aim was to help India become a major world power in 21st century. So kind of looking at India as an end in itself, to make someone, to assist someone to grow. While this 2025 document is full of self-praise. Obviously, the president, we can expect that. So self-praise, and now the transformation is India is not being seen as an end in itself, but as a mean to achieve an end. And what is the mean? What is the end? Containing China. So now India is being looked upon as, or looking at India as a tool to counter China, because they say they will continue to improve commercial and other relations with India to encourage New Delhi to contribute to Indo-Pacific security, including through continued quadrilateral cooperation with the Quad. So basically, not an end, but a mean to achieve an end. Now this has changed. So India has become a component in the America's China calculus. Moving further, author says India's rise will depend on India. It should be India owned and India led. It should not be dependent on any country for whatever the you can say achievement it wants to, or whatever stature India wants to achieve in the regional geopolitics or the entire geopolitics. So, and their document itself says that partners must increasingly assume primary responsibility for their regions. A polite reminder that support will be conditional and limited. So author says that it will be that this vacuum that has been created, or the role that America has given up. Now the role of India is not to fill that vacuum, but craft a role to suit its scale, interest and civilizational temperament, that how India approaches global geopolitics. So it is not a challenge to fill, it is not our prerogative to fill shoes, but how to maintain this autonomy and how to move ahead. So this is what the article was about. Article mentions quadrilateral security dialogue, that is Quad. So it is an strategic forum comprising 4 countries, namely India, USA, Japan and Australia. So China time and again has alleged that this is a security alliance, but Quad specifically, categorically has rejected this claim, and they simply say that this is more about the maritime security, infrastructure development and supply chain resilience. Basically, they say that this is the common philosophy or the values that these countries follow or preach or practice. That is why they are together. So they refuse this allegation that they are security alliance, but China alleges that it is a security alliance to counter it in Indo-Pacific. Now this idea was initiated or was given by Japanese PM Shinzo Abe on the sidelines of ASEAN meeting in 2007, and he termed the coin democratic security diamond, which linked India, Japan and the US and Australia. Now during 2016-17, China was very aggressive in its approach regarding Taiwan and South China Sea. So again watershed moment came, and first official Quad meeting was held in Manila on the margins of ASEAN summit. Then a landmark moment came in 2020 when exercise Malabar, which is a naval exercise between USA, Japan and India, conventionally was joined by Australia for this naval exercise. And again China started reiterating its claim that, see, you are indulging into naval warfare game. So this is a strategic alliance, this is a security alliance against China. Now in 2021, the first Quad leader summit happened virtually, and the spirit of the Quad was released, delineating the idea and objective of the Quad. So that is from the perspective of prelims. The next news article is based on inhalable microplastics. Now this article highlights a very concerning issue of microplastic pollution in the ongoing air pollution debate in the country. Now this is important from GS3 perspective, environmental pollution and degradation, and key highlights are, though we always focus on, if we talk about the key pollutants, we talk about PM 2.5, PM 10 and some gases like carbon monoxide, lead, sulfur oxide, nitrous oxide and ozone. However, with the amount of plastic that is being produced, that is 400 million metric ton every year, out of which 52 million tons are going as a waste into the environment, and you know that they are not degradable, so they remains in the environment. So new research has highlighted that these microplastics, which are usually less than the 5 micrometer size, though this article has considered size less than 10 micrometer, usually it is 5 micrometer. So they say the concentration in 4 metro cities which they calculated was 8.8 microgram per meter cube, and average city resident of these cities is inhaling 132 micrograms every single day, much high above the safe limits. Why it is concerning? Microplastic itself, UPSC has been asking question based on microplastic, microbeads every now and then. So you know why it is important, because of it is very easy for it to get into the food chain and then biomagnification and all kind of effect. So same is the case when you are inhaling microplastic. First is that it easily bypasses natural defenses and penetrates deep into the lungs, causing serious health issues. Then it also acts as a Trojan horse, a carrier of other pollutants like heavy metals like lead and cadmium, and hormone disrupting chemical like diethyl phthalates. It is carrier of these. So along with microplastic, these elements and chemical compounds are also getting into your body. Further, microplastic can also carry microbes of fungi like Aspergillus fumigatus. Why it is concerning? Because this is antibiotic, it carries antibiotic resistance gene. They could spread infection that don't respond to common antibiotic. And all together, they are those who are exposed to this, mainly the policemen who are on duty, the construction worker, or the people who are on road are mainly exposed to this, associated with high risk of cancer, hormone related disease, breast problem, and respiratory illness. So as I have told, usually 5 mm, basically of two kinds, primary and secondary. Primary related to the manufacturing process, so you are using cosmetic products, microplastic is there. You are using toothpaste, microplastic is there. You are using car tires, microplastic is there. You are using cigarettes, microplastic is there in the butts. Everywhere microplastic is present, and this is by design part of the industrial production. So these are primary. So once you have used it, you have discarded it, they will go directly into the environment. Secondary is the breakdown of larger plastic items. Breakdown of larger plastic item. So due to sun rays, sun's radiation, or ocean waves, when primary like water bottle or some food packaging item that you have thrown somewhere, once it degrades, it turns into microplastic and goes into the environment. And once it becomes microplastic, it is even more difficult to remove it because of its size and its high mobility. Moving further, the next news is related to IRDAI. Again, a new bill has been proposed, that is Sabka Bima Sabki Raksha. So main focus is to allow 100% FDI in the insurance sector, and IRDAI is an regulatory body, as has been mentioned in your GS paper 2 syllabus. So important thing is now IRDAI will be given power in line with the SEBI to penalize people and to ensure that insurance, so that violation by various insurance intermediaries like agent, companies, NBFCs, any intermediary can be cracked down. So more power is given to the IRDAI chairman and will be empowered to order searches, seizures, and inspection of documents if there is suspected violation of law, illegal payment of commission or rebates, attempts to falsify or destroy the book, accounts, vouchers, survey reports or other. Basically, if this chairman, the IRDAI chairman, has a doubt that you have tampered with the evidence or the regular process, he can order seizure and search. So every intermediary, name it NBFC, bank, corporate bank, broker, agent, third party administrator, TPAs, every intermediary who is involved in this insurance process can comes under the purview of RDAI chairman's sweeping power. So that is the main agenda, and the main focus of this bill would be to provide more power by amending Insurance Act, LIC Act and IRDAI Act. It will provide an 100% FDI in insurance, foreign direct investment, so that investment comes in, the more funding, more expertise, more say, and then insurance, achieving the insurance for all by 2047. It allows LIC to set up new zonal offices without prior government approval. More than that, it permits restructuring of overseas operations in line with host country law. So again, strengthening LIC's global footprint. A major miss, there are some concern, but a major miss is composite license, which has been demanded. What is composite license? So at present, if a company is providing you health insurance, they have to get a separate license to provide life insurance, separate license to provide car insurance. Now, insurance companies have been demanding a composite license so that they can work efficiently and seamlessly. However, this bill ignores this demand, and experts believe that this is a major miss on the chance that like major countries, major economies have this idea of composite licensing. So there was a demand and government missed out this opportunity. About IRDAI, you know that the main focus is the overall supervision and development of the insurance sector in India. Formed under the statutory body, under the Act, that is IRDAI Act 1999, it has been formed, and that is going to be amended now, and works under the Ministry of Finance. The main role is safeguard the interest of the policy holders, developing and nurturing the policy sector or industry, regulate business of insurance with transparency, fairness, facilitating financial prudence of the insurer through solvency and stability checks, to regulate premium charges if there is any, unscrupulous pricing and unaffordability, to check this high pricing and unaffordability. This is also job of IRDAI. Responsible for registering and licensing the entity who want to do business in the insurance sector. It also sets the eligibility criteria for entering into business insurance sector. Head office is in Hyderabad. It has a chairman and 5 full-time members and 4 part-time members, all of them appointed by the government of India. The last news article is based on places in news from Jordan, with a successful trip to the Jordan, a bilateral summit with the Jordan. Now, Prime Minister has arrived in the East African countries, a country of Ethiopia, where he was honored with the highest civilian award, the Great Honor Nishan of Ethiopia. So from your examination perspective, the location of Ethiopia is important. Few things that you should be keeping in mind that though the location is Eastern African, but it is a landlocked country. It has no access either to Gulf of Aden, Red Sea, or the Indian Ocean or Arabian Ocean, which we know. So it is a landlocked country surrounded by Somalia, Kenya, South Sudan, Sudan, Eritrea and Djibouti. One very important choke point here present is Strait of Hormuz, which connects Persian Gulf with that of Gulf of Oman, which opens towards the Arabian Sea. So these are few important locations, important from your perspective. The MOU or the details will be covered subsequently. That's all for today's session. Stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you.